Hello and welcome to the On the Couch podcast, the podcast that gives you the view from the therapist chair. I'm your host, John Dennis, a licensed professional counselor. You're listening to OTC episode 63 with Joe Sanok, host of the Leave to Find and the Practice of the Practice podcast. Welcome, OTC listeners. It is a hot June night. It's amazing out. We're in Eastern Pennsylvania, and I don't know. I get a lot of grief because I actually love the heat and the humidity. I mean, I love the winter, the snow and the ice, but I just love, summer. I haven't really experienced Brood X yet. I have a lot of family and friends that have, shown pictures and videos of just, cicada carcasses all over the place. I've heard that we're supposed to be getting it in this area as well, but I have not seen or heard any as yet. So hopefully I'm not jinxing myself right now. But yeah, it's been pretty nice so far. I mean, I know it's been really good to get outside, get fresh air, sunlight. I mean, the vitamin D is very needed. But yeah, this episode that I'm sharing today is with Joe Sanok, who is just such an amazing guy. I talk about him quite a bit. Quite possibly too much, maybe more than is healthy. I attribute a lot of I guess I would call it success in my business, if I could be so bold, to Joe Sanok. Right before I moved back to Pennsylvania, I just stumbled across his podcast, the Practice of the Practice podcast, and just started to gobble it up. Joe is this amazing, business consultant. He runs mastermind groups and had a license in Michigan as a mental health clinician, and has since set that aside to really pursue podcasting and business consulting full time, and just doing what he said. It just made so much sense to me, and I owe a lot of what I've accomplished up to this point to him. So thank you, Joe. For those that have listened along since the beginning, Joe was a guest in season 1, episode 10, where we talked about his podcast and the TED Talk that he had done on vigilance decrement and slowing down and speeding up in intervals. So I would definitely check that out. And Joe will actually be on again later this season. He and I are going to be talking about his book, which is coming out October 5th, which is Thursday is the New Friday, talking about just the importance of the 3-day work week or the 4-day work week, or, again, slowing down to speed up. What is it, buddy? What? Timmy fell down the well? You're kidding. How did he even do that? Come here, you mongrel. Jeez. My co-host buddy has decided to make an appearance in the intro. So yeah, he's very needy. I always say, I think one of us is an emotional support animal, but I'm not sure which one it is. I think it's me. So yeah, when I heard that Joe and his family were going to be going out on the road and doing road school and getting an RV and going to be podcasting about the adventures that they were getting into, I was just so jealous, because that sounds amazing. It just seems so cool to push all in like that and be like, we're doing this. but then to throw in the huge curveball of COVID and the pandemic and things shutting down, I even more so. Like I had reached out to Joe prior to a lot of this happening when I found out that he and his family were going on this adventure, and just wanted to, stay in touch. And then as I was getting into season 3, have him on the show to talk about it. And, following along on their social media accounts and his Practice of the Practice accounts, you just got to see all of the cool things that they got to do. I mean, they went to so many awesome like national parks and, just surfing and llamas and, stopping off to see friends. And I don't know, it's just something that really appealed to me. Just why not, hopefully with the pandemic, we're never going to have one of those again. But when are you going to have that opportunity when, your kids are able to like be pulled out of school, traditional school, and put into road school and get an RV and go on the road and just travel the country and see the sights? I mean, it's such an amazing, opportunity to make lasting memories. And like I said, when I found out that he was doing it, I knew I had to have him on to talk about it. So, if you want to check out Joe, it's Joe Sanok, Sanok. So he has his own website under his name, where he'll be releasing the book. But yeah, and then if you look up just practiceofthepractice.com, you can find Joe Sanok there if you want to get in touch with him for business consulting and mastermind groups that he runs. But you definitely need to check him out because he has some amazing top-notch guests on his show, and he's just doing, like, he's always doing something. He's like got his hand in so many different things, and he's just always pushing the envelope, which is so inspirational and so cool to see. So as always, I always say, I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope that you take something from it. And like I said, just checking out Joe and what he's about, you will get something from it. He has so many resources on his site that could help anybody. So take a look. Well, on the couch listeners, I'm honored to have Joe Sanok here on the show. So many things that he's done. He's the author of a new book coming out. Thursday is the New Friday. He's the host of the Practice of the Practice podcast and the network, and yeah, so many things. So Joe, welcome to the show.
Oh, John, so welcome to be here. So happy to be here.
Yeah. It's early, right? It's yeah. My 3-year-old came in at like 2 and 5, and yeah, so I'm feeling it today. So like you said, may the 4th be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Also with you. This is the way.
That's right. I keep joking with Buddy often sits here with me during counseling that it'd be so much cooler if I had like the full Mandalorian and he was like baby Grogu, but yeah,
oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, I'm not that cool. So yeah, I wanted to have you on for the Leave to Find. I mean, that adventure that you went on, and hear all about it, because when I found out you were doing it, I was so jealous and just wanted to hear like, yeah, how did that go? Taking the kids and the wife on the road, and pushing all in and getting now is it RV or a camper or
yeah, it's a pull behind camper. Yeah, so the quick version is we left in September of 2020 and returned in late April of 2021, and mostly lived in national parks and RV campgrounds and did some boondocking. And we've been planning it for a while, so depending on how much you want to go into the planning versus the actual adventure, a lot happened during that trip.
Well, yeah, I did want to go into that a little bit because, I mean, I mean, you sold your practice, you put your counseling license on inactive status, and kind of geared up for this prior to all of COVID, right? Like you all were planning
Yeah.
this out, and
Yeah,
then
really, I
COVID hit.
mean, right. We knew that we wanted to do some sort of big adventure. And Christina, she said, I really want to, get a camper and go across the country. And I thought, hey, that sounds great. It took a while for me to really kind of buy in, especially because initially it was she wanted to buy the most expensive Airstream that's out there, and to walk through $150,000 camper, thinking this is somehow getting away from life and getting simple. Took a lot of just processing, but we ended up getting a Grand Design, which was a great kind of family style of camper. Bought a truck. I never thought I'd be a truck guy, but I love my truck now. It can hold my paddle boards and bikes. It's like a great rec vehicle.
Nice.
And all of the summer after the camper was delivered, and that was in the middle of COVID that we got the camper, and had really thought through. We were about to pull the trigger just as COVID was amping up in March of 2020, and said, let's just see how the practice goes. I didn't want to buy this huge purchase and then be like, man, I wish I had that cash on hand. And things
Sure.
kept going well. And as a lot of us counselors know, things got better for therapists because there's just so much need and people actually recognize that need.
Yeah.
So when we recognized that, got the camper, and then learned, like, every day was like a day of learning, like learning how to install a solar panel, how to have an
Okay.
extra battery, and like watching all these YouTube videos on like, how do you even clean out the fresh water before you start on this? Because in the manual it says clean the fresh water tank, make sure you use bleach, and I'm like, well, can I have a little more descriptors than that? So it was a lot of learning, and I had never backed up anything. I'd never had a boat, never had anything, and now I have a 37-foot pull behind camper. So yeah, it was a steep learning curve for sure.
Well, yeah, I remember listening to episodes, and we had talked about the similar idea after we had heard you done it, and yeah, we were kind of weighing our options with COVID, and trying to figure out, okay, what's school going to look like in the coming year, and yeah, the like parking it, backing it up was a huge like. I don't know if I can do that because
That's actually
yeah,
the easy part, I would say. I mean, there's so many difficult parts, but
yeah,
once you go to a parking lot with it and you back it up enough times, and you realize, you have plenty of time. I mean, like, if it takes you 3 hours, it takes you 3 hours. And if people are mad, who cares? You just want to be safe. And once you have a few times that it takes longer than you would prefer, you start to get it.
yeah. Yeah, and so you obviously you made the decision. Okay, we're still going, and enrolled the kids in road school, or was it like cyber school through their district? Or yeah,
Yeah, so for the schooling side, our 9-year-old does what's called Fit Learning, which is out of Chicago. We did an episode on Leave to Find, but also on Practice the Practice about Fit Learning. It's an amazing program. Our daughter, and she's talked publicly about this on the podcast. So in early 2020, we had her assessed right before the pandemic, and she was a third grader at that point, but she was reading at a late kindergarten level. And the private school she was at just wasn't listening to us, and we were saying there's something here, and we've disentangled with that school. But she's gone from reading at a late kindergarten level to now reading at a mid fourth grade level within this whole school year. And so, I mean, she's worked so hard doing 3 to 5 hours a week, an hour per time. But they gamify it. They use the point system. It's like a ABA style program. And it's
okay.
just, I mean, she buys into it and shows up just like ready to kick butt every day. So
ABA being the applied behavioral
applied behavior
analysis.
analysis, yeah.
There we go.
So I think that for us, the two core things were kind of reading and math. And so with both the kids, our other child's in kindergarten, and Lakin, she's the kindergartner. So we did a lot of flashcards, a lot of reading, a lot of Bob books. And I mean, she's reading at now a kind of late first grade level as a kindergartner. And then math wise, there's something called Beast Academy that Lucia did, that's aimed at older kids, and it's very sequential. And then with Lakin, we had a lot of workbooks. And I mean, kindergarten's more just introducing a lot of these concepts and not overdoing it. But then the rest of school, we really viewed it as being responsible for your own body, your own space, helping out with the camper. I mean, Lucia, our 9-year-old, when we got home, she's the one that helped me back up the camper. She had a walkie-talkie, and she's just like, "Oh, you're coming close to the mailbox. You're getting closer. All right, stop, pull forward, go
You
to
found
the
it.
left." I mean, it's insane, this little 9-year-old being responsible for a gigantic camper. But then, I mean,
That's so
national
awesome.
parks have all those like junior ranger programs, and really just to have a sense of awe in their learning was the biggest takeaway, where every sunset or every new mountain or every new national park was just, it just blew their little minds. And it's like that's what learning is supposed to be. And I know teachers are doing their best on Zoom. I know a lot of families are in a position where they can't do what we did. And we're very fortunate, but I think that we can still go after senses of awe in our own community and new experiences and just trying things that we never would have tried otherwise.
Well, yeah, it definitely, like I said, very, very jealous when I heard that you were, pushing all in and doing it. Cause yeah, like, especially in the last year, it's like, now's the time, and those memories they're going to have for forever of just, you know, any of those parks that you went to. And, I remember like the llamas and, you
Yeah.
know, just, I was thinking of, the redwoods or Yosemite or just any of the crazy experiences of like just random stuff you kind of find and stumble upon. The like locals only hole in the wall kind of stuff. Or yeah, I mean that's what life's about, right?
Well, and I think what's interesting is with the girls, I really kind of in the last third of the trip started reading a lot about Taoism and kind of reading a lot of Lao Tzu and just the idea of going with the flow. And there's an analogy that really kind of hit me hard, and that's that a willow tree doesn't cling to any of the snow, and the snow just flows right through its branches, and the branches don't break. But a pine tree holds onto it, and its branches often break. And that idea of like whatever happens, like let's go with the flow. And so we took this 2-week trip where it was just the girls and myself, and we went, you had mentioned Death Valley, Sequoia, Kings Canyon, Yosemite, Monterey Bay. We went whale watching. So we did this big kind of epic, just daddy daughters trip. Um, and I said, let's establish some new rules for this trip. For just this 2 weeks, we'll test it out. And so like the first rule was you can eat anything you want, whenever you want, as long as you listen to your body. And so I was like, this is a gamble, but I just don't want to fight about food for 2 weeks. And I don't want to be giving permission for a bar or a squeezy or whatever. And they didn't go crazy at first. One morning, my daughter had Pringles and bacon for breakfast, and it was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But that night, she ate so many goldfish, and she was just like shaking in bed and goes, "I ate too many carbs." But by the end, I remember we were at a Starbucks, and I was like, "You guys want a cake pop?" And they're like, "No, our bodies don't need a cake pop." It was like, what has happened?
Yeah.
but but that idea of going with the flow of just like allowing things to unfold. And of course we need to have goals in life. Of course we need to have direction, but to also not cling to what we think needs to happen in a day, what we think needs to happen in a relationship or in like the way that we interact professionally, and to allow things to also unfold beyond our goals. There was this one day where we stayed on the way back at this Harvest Host. And Harvest Host, you pay like $35 a year, and you can stay at all these breweries and wineries for free. You can't plug. There's no plug-in. There's no like sewer out. It's all dry camping where you're self-contained. But we
Mhm.
stay at this little winery in the middle of Kansas. I didn't even know Kansas sold wine. But we have to go down this like dirty, muddy road. Like our camper's getting just covered in mud, and we arrive, and it's like this beautiful wedding venue in the middle of Kansas. Um, they have really good wine, actually. And then they had a mini donkey. And so, like, they let us go out and, like, feed this mini donkey. And it was just, like, it was shorter than my 6-year-old. It was mini, mini. So we had this amazing time. That night, our furnace stops working. We're dry camping. And we wake up the next morning, and it's 40 degrees inside of our camper. So we all slept like crap. And then the next day, and the girls were like, I was cold, but we're going to roll with it. And we got packed up. And then an hour later, we blew a tire on the camper, and we were stuck on the side of the road for 3.5 hours. I did a meditation for a while. The girls, did some academic stuff, and they were perfect for 3.5 hours sitting on the side of the road waiting for AAA. And it just felt like the culmination of a trip of we're going to roll with this. We're going to be like a good family. We're not going to take our stress out on each other. And it was fine. For most people, that day of, waking up with 40 degrees and blowing a tire and not getting to your destination on time would like piss you off.
Oh yeah,
But
any one of those
but by
things would
the
have
end of
really.
it, it was like, wow, like the world, the universe, whatever you want to name it, just gave us a chance to just sit on the side of the road and have some extra meditation time.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and in listening to the different episodes, I mean that came through. I mean, and I'm so amazed because I'm thinking of my own parenting, which is not as zen or or mindful, sadly. Yeah, I
Well, I
remember.
have my moments too.
Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, that makes me feel better. Yeah, um, and you kind of had this like free form sort of like whoever wants to be a part of today's podcast episode can, and if you don't, that's great, fine. And there were points where one of your daughters was trying to ask a question while you were podcasting, and I would have been like, stop record, like handle this off air, like you're killing me, Smalls. You got, like, and you had this very just like, hey, you decided, and we're doing this right now, but we'll get to you in a sec. And yeah, just the how cool it is to see some of that mindfulness start to like take root and them do that for themselves of like, nah, my body doesn't really need a cake pop right now. um yeah, just the courage that takes and to see it pay off, I imagine that was pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
I think that like I really kind of realized even before this trip through COVID, just how much as an adult we have to think about what we want, what food we want to put in our body, what feels healthy, what exercise we're going to do, like whatever. We make choices, a million choices a day about how we're going to live our lives. And for some reason, we tell our kids what to do until they're 18, and then we send them off to college and expect them to now all of a sudden have this intuitive wisdom on how to run their life. I
Mm-hmm.
just had this realization of I need to slowly move them into that they're more and more responsible for their life as they get older. And we even started something a few years ago where we say you always have three choices. So if I say, hey, it's time to get off the iPad, you can just say yes, and you definitely won't get in trouble for that because you're listening. You can say no, and you'll most likely get in trouble for that. Or most of the time, you can respectfully advocate for your position. Now, for
Mm-hmm.
me as a kid, I had no choices if I wanted to push back with my parents. It was, we said get off, well, there weren't iPads. I said get off the
Yeah.
Nintendo, get off the Nintendo. And there wasn't any respectful advocacy. There wasn't that gray zone, which I think
Yeah.
is really important to build. And so to see how most of the time I'm open to advocacy, but there are times when it's, we've got to leave right now. I need you to get your shoes on. This is one of those, you don't get to respectfully advocate, like get in the car. But if I did that all the time, then I'm just a harsh parent
Yeah.
and I'm muting their voice. And so really allowing on this trip to say like, what choices do they want to make around their learning, around their experience? And they came up with some crazy stuff. One of our rules on that 2-week road trip was if anyone wanted to stop the car at any time, like they could. Like if there's something cool, one person could do it. And we were in Yosemite, and my 6-year-old Lakin saw all these boulders. She's like, "I want to go bouldering." I'm like, "Awesome." We pulled over, and Lucia was like, "I don't want to." I'm like, "Well, then you can make the choice to sit somewhere where we can still see you, but you can't sit in the car by yourself in the middle of a national park and all
Mm.
this." So she ended up bouldering too, and we had an awesome time. And there was plenty of other times that Lucia wanted to do something that Lakin didn't want to. Like Lucia wanted to go do sunset horseback riding in Death Valley, and Lakin didn't want to do it. And then we did it, and they loved it. And so just giving them that choice to be able to influence how the family does things and like what experiences we have, and being able to learn that sometimes our view of things it isn't the whole view, and someone else can influence us and let us have an experience that we would have chose. And how important is that for a kid to feel that? I mean, I think we all need to do that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's so many lessons that we learned.
Wow. So what was it like being on the road during, I mean, yeah, during like election and a lot of the stuff going on during the year? Were you kind of insulated and sheltered from that, where you weren't, hey kids, this is what happened on January 6th, or, like you were keeping them up to date, or like. You're listening to OTC episode 63 with Joe Sanok, host of the Leave to Find podcast and the Practice of the Practice podcast. We'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor.
So you just had a fight. Now what? In the latest program in the Gottman Relationship Coach, Doctors John and Julie Gottman will guide you through the science behind conflict and what you can do to course correct. You'll learn how to stop conflict from spiraling by identifying the signs of flooding, what repair attempts look like in your relationship, and what triggers you and your partner. Visit Gottman.com/afterafight for more.
Wow. So what was it like being on the road during like election and a lot of the stuff going on during the year? Were you kind of insulated and sheltered from that, where you weren't, hey kids, this is what happened on January 6th, or, like you were keeping them up to date, or like, no?
Yeah, we definitely didn't shelter them. We wanted that all to be part of their learning. So in November, we intentionally stayed in Fort Collins, where we had some friends, and also wasn't kind of a state's epicenter. So we had friends in Denver, but we're like, if things light up, Denver's more likely than Fort Collins. So we
Yeah.
kind of avoided some of those larger towns, when it was uncertain. After January and on January 20th, like we made sure that we were kind of with friends in San Diego for that. And so just being able to kind of think through some of it. But like even January 6th, when that was happening, I turned on the feed and said, girls, come here. This is an important moment in history. I don't know what's happening, but I think
Yeah.
this is something we're all going to remember. And I want you to be able to remember this. And we sat and we watched it together. And the things we watched didn't get to the point where I felt like it would traumatize them. Because of course you don't want to add
Sure.
images they can't undo. But for them to at least know something's up in the Capitol, that to me, that's really important to, in the same way that whether it's the Challenger or other things from our childhood that stand out,
Yeah.
I want them to be able to have those reference points. And then, I mean, we could talk about kind of what the daily life was like. Way more boring than what Instagram tends to show.
A lot of driving, a lot of stretching, a lot of bathroom breaks.
Yeah. But I mean, it was like during COVID to be able to be safe, to pull a camper and just pull over anywhere and use the bathroom. I mean, we were so self-contained. So really it was, if we went to some sort of destination and recognizing what felt safe or unsafe. So like Mount Rushmore and Wall Drug were definitely more red leaning type of sites, and lots of anti-maskers, lots of people that we just kind of said, okay, like one of us will run in and get food, or, just being smart about that. But for the most part, whether it was national parks or other sites, Crazy Horse was amazing. They did an awesome job with just like social distancing and temperatures and all of that. So most of the places were just really good. Even like I remember we were at the Denver Zoo, and it was right before Halloween because one of the staff was dressed up as Waldo, and he's just standing there, and he was counting people as they went in, making and giving them as they went in to see the apes. Very clear instructions to every person. So please make sure you keep at least 10 feet away from people. Let one family at a time kind of be in there when they leave. Like don't stay there too long because there's people waiting, and just to have that guidance from someone instead of just a free for all. So many places did a really good job with that, and it was nice to see. I felt really safe on the road regarding COVID.
Yeah. What was it like in terms of the holidays and things like that to be on the road? Yeah.
Yeah, so for Halloween, they probably got more candy than they do back home because we were at this KOA in Fort Collins. So it's like this Campground of America. And they had 2 days of candy, but only probably 8 kids in the whole park. And we had us plus 2 other kids. So there's all these
Wow.
retired people that just want to see kids in
Yeah.
their costumes. And there's like 8 or 10 kids going around, and we just got way more candy than we needed to have. But then we also went trick-or-treating at our friends, so Dr. Jeremy Sharp and Carrie Haynes. Jeremy has the Testing Psychologist podcast, and
Yeah.
Carrie just launched the Art of Groups podcast. I mean, they were people that we would cross paths, like similar to yourself, where like you've been on my radar for a while, and I just can tell that if we hung out for any period of time, we'd really enjoy each other. And so same sort of thing where, Jeremy had come to Slowdown School and he had done consulting with me, and we had met up for tequila and tacos a couple times, but we never had the time to like get to know each other
Just
beyond
hang,
just a
yeah.
quick meetup. And so to stay in Fort Collins for, we were there like 6 weeks, I think, and just get to know them was awesome. So for the holidays, we did Halloween with them. And then her parents actually invited us to come down to Phoenix. And so they got an Airbnb down there. So we camped the camper like outside of the Airbnb. And then on Thanksgiving ended up then hanging out, and they had Thanksgiving pasties. So that was fun. And then for Christmas, we hung out with Christina's cousin up in Sacramento. So, things were awesome. It was
Wow.
different than usual, but like we did our traditional Polish dinner still the night before Christmas on Christmas Eve. And it just made me feel like, any of these holidays are like the people that you're with and those traditions rather than a specific place.
Sure. Yeah, and that's again, just going with the flow and being flexible with it. Tell me about. I'm sorry if I get this wrong. Is it the green flash? Did you did you ever get to see it?
No, so I think it's an urban legend. I know that people say that it's true. That when the sun goes below the horizon, and we've looked for it over Lake Michigan because we get a lot of sunsets over Lake Michigan, and then also, we went to the Pacific quite a bit for sunsets. And they say that like the moment the sun dips below, there's a green flash, and we videoed many times thinking we might see the green flash.
This is the time.
Yeah, I think it's an urban legend. There's some debate within our friend circle as to whether it's urban legend or not, but could just be how certain people's eyes adjust to light variations.
If you're at the Stone Brewery, then
Yes.
you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've gone to some of the specialty shops for gummies, then we'll definitely see a green flash. No, so the green flash, I would argue, I mean, I haven't seen it, and that doesn't mean that it's not true. But yeah, the green flash was quite a thing of debate within our friend circles.
Well, I know for me, I always say like probably at least at the top, if not number one on my bucket list, is seeing the Aurora Borealis. Just seeing the Northern Lights. And I still have not done that. It will happen, just a question of when. But
I've seen it a few times, not on this trip, but I remember I was working up in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and I mean, up there, it gets dark in the winter at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. I mean, it's legit like seasonal affective disorder material. And I was driving home, and there was an eagle that flew right in front of my car, like landing for the day, just like done for the day. And then the stars were out, and the Aurora Borealis was just going crazy. It was just like curtains around me, and it made that hour drive home pretty dang amazing.
And then there were like shooting stars and like
and then
double
fairies and unicorns and seriously. And then I woke up and it was all fake.
But yeah, I know like my brother, they were really big on never miss a sunset, and that idea of like, hey, this is when sunset is. Pause what you're doing. Where is it? Enjoy it. Take presence. And yeah, that idea of the green flash, I think kind of applies the same of like, yeah, don't miss a sunset because you never know, you might see it.
Yeah. And I think that like some of my fondest memories are kind of driving through the Southwest where the sun is setting and it's just like you can see so far and there's plateaus, and my girls were just, oh my gosh, we've seen, like, they were keeping track of all the colors they had seen in sunsets. And the day that they saw purple, they're like, that's the final color we hadn't seen. And
Nice.
like it was, I mean, I guess they didn't see green because they didn't see the green flash.
Yes. So for you, yeah, what were some of those like really peak things for you of like, that was awesome?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was seeing just the awe in my kids because it added an extra layer beyond just me thinking something was cool. So like Carlsbad Caverns in southern New Mexico, we had heard about it on the road. It wasn't even really on our map, and we were really flexible with we would just look ahead a couple weeks and then schedule where to stay rather than have some agenda we had to follow. We figured that would just be easier with COVID and with us just not knowing exactly what we were going to want to do. So we had heard about Carlsbad Caverns and went down there. And we would usually watch a video or two ahead of time to prep the girls so they'd know some of the history so they could appreciate it more when they were there. And Lucia, our 9-year-old, she watched this video and really retained a lot. And she made this whole list of things that we had to do there. So she said, we have to take the natural entrance. We can't take the elevator down because we're going to miss a mile of caves. And she had this whole list of how to get the best experience. And we took the natural entrance in, and it was amazing. It was insane. Like, you would miss easily half of what Carlsbad Cavern has to offer if you didn't take the natural entrance in.
Wow.
Because it's a good mile hike, kind of slowly going down into the cavern versus just an elevator that takes you, however deep it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So Carlsbad Cavern, it's the largest cavern in the United States. You could fit 3 U.S. capitals in the big room. It's just enormous. Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, how did I not hear about this?
Yeah.
Mammoth Cave is the largest cave system, but it doesn't have any caves that are as big as Carlsbad. So that was amazing. Lucia's also really into space. And so we went to Meteor Crater in northern Arizona after the Grand Canyon. And that's a mile-wide crater made by a meteor like 1,000 years ago. And they've used it for, like, NASA has trained there, and they've done all sorts of kind of other like movie things there. So that was just really cool to learn about that. And then Lake and my 6-year-old, she just loves rocks. That really came out on this trip. And so when we were at Petrified Forest, to just see her, she could have sat there for days and was just like this little guru, just taking it all in, and would just sit and look at these petrified pieces of wood. And I mean, I felt bad being like, we gotta go.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where we had to.
Yeah.
But so those kind of things just, and I think those moments of bonding, we did indoor skydiving, and doing that was fun for myself. It was amazing and I enjoyed it. But seeing both of my girls, who sometimes are a little more apprehensive than the average kid, try something that's that loud and windy and scary, and to do it. And Lakin, our 6-year-old, she said after she did it, like, I don't want to do that again. So trusting her body, but she tried it and she took it seriously. And like those moments were just amazing.
Now, is that iFly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did the San Diego one.
Nice. Yeah, I've done iFly in Virginia Beach myself, and so in talking to my daughter about it, she's like, I really want to do it, but yeah, she has a fair amount of anxiety herself, so I'm kind of interested to try to give her that experience, but wary of how that's going to go. And
I mean, I viewed it as, okay, we paid for this many minutes between the 4 of us. If they don't want to do it, then I'll take your minutes. Which I did.
But it's interesting because you and I both have backgrounds in Boy Scouts, and now the dad perspective of like, yeah, let's go to this, Philmont or this place, Florida Sea Base, or like these national parks. And a lot of times as the kid, you're like, why are we doing this? Why is my dad dragging me to this? And then now as the dad, to be like, this is really awesome. You have to see this, and like kind of click of like, oh, that's why they took me to these things. Yeah.
And I think even reflecting on how you felt before, or for the kids, how they felt before that day and after, for me was really important to say, like, where are you at right now? As we head into Yosemite, I'm tired. I don't feel like going. And okay, so then, the end of the day, how do you feel? I'm tired, and that was amazing. I'm so glad I did it. Okay, what would you tell your morning self about how you feel now? You should totally do it. It's awesome, even when you feel tired. And so for them to, again, be able to notice in themselves, here's the shift that happened in me, and I would tell myself, get out of bed and go do this, so that it's not me always saying this is going to be good for you, but it's them saying that it's going to be good for them to themselves.
Yeah. And you did so many cool things of just different creative activities throughout the trip of like, I think you were doing watercolor at different points and some pretty amazing artwork, I would say, by the
Oh,
way.
thanks. I've continued that at home. It's been a fun thing to learn how to do.
Yeah. But yeah, just that idea of, hey, let's, draw a picture of it or do a watercolor or, now I gotta ask, who has control of the radio on this? Does that
Like the
rotate?
music that we're listening
Yes.
to,
Who is the DJ?
we all have pretty similar tastes. So our like Lucia and Lakin are super into a lot of indie music, and I mean, we haven't exposed them to music we don't like for the most part. We do have some kids bop time, but I would say that was never like a thing where any of us really disagreed. I think the biggest thing we'd be like, okay, no more kids bop after this song for a little bit. I just need a break. And I do feel like the four of us really were able to, kind of be fine with the music side of it.
Yeah, yeah. My 3-year-old he listens to a lot of Blaze and Paw Patrol, just like on repeat. And I actually, some of the Blaze songs from that cartoon are like, he's learning about centripetal force and friction, and I'm like, I'm learning stuff. But yeah, obviously after like the 10th time, it kind of gets old.
Yeah.
But I guess I have this vision of my family, belting out, like Rock Me Mama, like Old Crow Medicine Show. And like, yeah, just like everybody rocking out as we're driving down the road.
Yeah, we actually made a Spotify playlist because they'd hear a song they like, and then they'd be like, "Oh, I want this on the list." And then they have Spotify now on their iPads. So if I really don't want to hear their music, they can listen to it for a bit on their own, just to have that space away from the family, and but not have it be you're always in your own world. I mean, there's a balance there between family time and individual time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if you're able to speak to, how did you navigate, like, I need some time to myself, or because you got introverts and extroverts, and just in a confined space for a long period of time. Yeah, that can
Yeah, I
go
think
wrong.
having some regular walks was pretty good, especially after a long day of driving, to just let them kind of go look at rocks or look around or go on a bike ride. I tend to, for myself, be pretty aware of what I need. And so to be able to say, I'm going to go for a walk. Are you cool with doing bedtime? I'm going to go for a walk. I just woke up. I started waking up really early on the trip, and which I'm so not a morning person. But it was great because I had this whole morning meditation and was reading Lao Tzu and journaling. And I read this book, Awareness, which was pretty amazing. And then I'd kind of exercise and do a 3-minute plank and go for a walk. And that really like grounded me for the day, to feel like I had got a lot in for myself before I started any work or any parenting type of things.
Yeah, I was definitely getting inspired by you with because I was kind of following along with like the morning plank and like all these other things. I'm a morning person, but my 2 kids are also morning people, so I don't really get the. I'm
and
not
the
able to
ages
like
that you have right now, you're in the thick of it. I mean,
yeah,
having
man.
a 6 and 9-year-old, like they can wake up, get dressed, brush their hair and teeth, and get food going. And I mean, it could be 9:30 a.m. and like I haven't done any parenting yet. So
Wow. Okay, so
it's
I've got
coming. It's
I've got a
coming.
goal.
Yes. Just
Yeah,
don't have
with
more kids.
the 4-year-old, he might be like he might get the keys and be in the car by the time I'm like
Yeah.
I have to like be on alert for any sounds. So so what was that like to sell your practice and put your license on inactive and like step away from that? I mean, I know you've been doing podcasting, like that's been like transitioning to the forefront more and more and more, but what was that like?
Yeah, I think the year before, I really started to reflect on what I wanted with mental wellness counseling. And so I knew my lease was coming due in summer of 2019. So I had to make some decision. Am I going to just close the practice? Am I going to get another lease? Am I going to sell it? Like I didn't know. And I was kind of paying attention to, I had 1 or 2 clients I was seeing a week. And I realized I'm not going to hold on to the practice just because I have these 2 clients that want to see me. Um, there was people that was their full-time job working for mental wellness. So to just close it down didn't seem right. So it seemed like moving into either another lease, but then being more of a silent owner and bringing in an operations person, or if I could find a buyer, because a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to find a buyer. And just from a consulting standpoint, if someone came to me and said, "Hey, should I buy this business for $100,000 or $200,000?" To say, "Well, could you build a business in like a year that makes 100 or 200?" Probably. I mean, if you followed my program. Um, so it's sort of like it has to be a pretty compelling case for someone to buy a practice, and it has to be the right person too with the right vision. I didn't want to hand over this thing that I had created and then have be like, yeah, don't look up my old website because it's terrible and these people have run it into the ground or
Yeah,
whatever.
that was your baby.
So actually, Nicole, one of the clinicians, she came to me probably 6 months before the lease was up and just said, "So what's the plan for mental wellness after the lease is up in July?" And I mean, everyone knew the lease was up. And I said, right now I'm really kind of thinking through like all the stuff I just said, and considering looking for a buyer or partial buyer or operations buyer. And she said I'd be interested in that. And so she and I had a series of conversations. We did valuation. We worked with the bank. She got an SBA loan, and really during that process, it was a very freeing process for me to kind of be like, I'm not going to have an office. I'm not going to have to, have a desk or have this, and really realizing my passion was with practice of the practice and doing the consulting work and the actual therapy. Those last 6 months, like I was involved. I wasn't checked out at all, but I was excited to be done with it. I was excited to just move into just the opportunity of going after things that aren't limited by any kind of space or time or location.
I imagine. I mean, was it like just a huge sigh of relief when COVID hit, or you were like, just like, God, I dodged a bullet?
Yes, and she did her best year ever. They I think are quadruple where it was when when I had it.
Wow.
And part of that is that she fully wants to run a private practice, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do a podcast and consulting, and the private practice helped
Mm-hmm.
cash flow a lot of that. But it didn't get all of my attention, and they knew that too. And so I was more of a silent owner that was making money off of it and had the marketing things going, but
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the activeness that Nicole has. And I mean, they've blown up. I mean, I think she hired 5 people last month.
Yeah.
But for me to just not have a space that I had to pay for or any of that, definitely was happy that I didn't have that extra responsibility, because that would have been really tough.
Yeah. And I guess I just think of it as like, just counseling and consulting and supervision and podcasting. I mean, it's just different stressors. You're
Yeah.
dealing with different elements. And yeah, for you, I mean, you obviously you've been working on the book. You just got the first copies of that, and yeah. So you want to kind of set up for there you go. Yeah. So Thursday is the new Friday. Yeah. Give me kind of the synopsis a little bit.
Yeah, the quick version is that research and case studies over and over are showing that the 4-day work week is really better for productivity and for creativity than the 5-day work week. One thing I discovered in writing it, I always go back to the history of how did we get here? Because if we don't understand the history, it's really hard to understand where we're headed. And so I just started thinking, like, where did the 7-day week even come from? Where did the 40-hour week come from? So the Babylonians, thousands of years ago, they could only count 7 celestial beings, and so they counted the sun, the moon, Earth, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. Those were the 7 that they could clearly identify. And so they said, let's have a 7-day week. The Egyptians had an 8-day week. The Romans had a 10-day week. So we think of even just the 7-day week as being this thing that is set, which it is now.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in nature that really says a 7-day week. I mean, moon cycles give us months. Obviously going around the sun gives us years, but there's not really anything in nature that points to a 7-day week. And so up until the late 1800s, the average person was working 10 to 14 hour days, 6 to 7 days a week. And so So knowing what the schedule has been for thousands of years, and then knowing that Henry Ford started the 40-hour work week so he could sell more cars to his own employees. He wanted them to have recreation time so they would buy cars from the plant and could go do things. That then swept the nation. And that was in 1926. So less than 100 years ago, the 40-hour week starts. And it feels right now like it's this solid thing that people have to work 40 hours. But we've even seen, especially in the 80s, the idea of Fridays slowly becoming less and less of a work day. If you talk to the average person, even before COVID, what did Friday look like? Well, that's when we have birthday parties. That's when we have the visioning meetings because we can get donuts and chit chat for 20 minutes. It's like a half-lived work day.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's plenty of places that have started moving to a 4-day work week. The country of Spain is testing it right now nationwide. There's this community college in Southwest Michigan called Kalamazoo Valley Community College. And this HVAC guy figured out that if they could shut down on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the amount they would save in air conditioning would be millions of dollars. And so he proposed it to the board. They've done it for, I think, 5 years now. They save millions of dollars just in air conditioning costs. And when you look at like staff retention, they're working 36 hours a week in the summer, and then they get a 3-day weekend every single weekend. It's amazing to see when you start to dig into it, how kind of from a macro point of view, there's all these things that point to a 4-day work week. But then individually, there's all these individual things we can do as entrepreneurs also that help us kind of live that out too.
Sure. Wow. And it made me think of, I know Sam Jones and the Off Camera podcast. He was talking with Matt Damon, and, Matt Damon kind of getting frustrated and pushing back on that like overnight success kind of concept of like, I've had my Screen Actors Guild card for like 10 years before Good Will Hunting like blew up. And, I would think for you also that like, I mean, I've been killing it. I've been working pretty hard to like get this stuff in place. It's not like I just thought this up yesterday and was like, 4-day work week.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, go ahead.
No, go.
No, I think that idea of overnight success, it's more people just realize that you exist overnight. Like, oh, I didn't know about Joe, now I do. And I think that in any of the work we do, looking at what's that big next thing that's going to help you level up. And so when I was at the community college, it was if I could just get consulting clients that are paying me twice what my counseling clients are paying me. So I think it was $150 a session. If I can get a handful of consulting clients at $300 a session, that's a big step forward. Then it was, if I can get a mastermind group with people paying $500 a month, and if I can get 6 people, and then I meet 2 times, and then maybe we have some consulting sessions. Well, now I'm making $1,500 for that hour. And just that idea of, okay, now next level practice, it's a membership community. If I can get people paying a certain amount and help them and they feel good about it, then I can go from one-on-one to one-to-many. And so it was a good year and a half ago that I said, what would that next one thing be? And that's from the book, The One Thing. I've really taken that to heart, of that one thing that if I achieve that, it'll make everything else easier. And it was, if I can have a New York Times bestseller, that would make things a lot easier. Like traditionally published, like really go after that. And so once I had that focus, every single podcast guest that was an author, for probably 2 or 3 weeks, said, I'm shopping around for a new agent for a book. Would you introduce me to your agent? Now, by new agent, I meant an agent because I didn't have one. But they didn't know that, and I wasn't lying, but I'm looking for a new agent. And so all of a sudden I had probably 10 agents that I had contact with, and kind of pitched them on.
Well, there you have it, OTC listeners. Thank you to Joe Sanok. I was so honored to have you on the show for a little bit, and really looking forward to catching back up with you again for your book. Thursday is the new Friday. Next episode is going to be with Keith Miller, who is a clinician and a practice owner in the DC area. And he also is the host of the Soul of Life podcast. So tune in for episode 64 to check that out. This is Buddy and his emotional support animal, John, signing off. So thank you. Take care.